Welcome to Clearer Minds, Calmer Conversations in partnership with Community Legal Services. My name is Jesse Lyon.
And I'm Zach Dotson.
Thanks for being here. We're going to talk today about communication, which feels a little funny to talk to a bunch of lawyers about communication.
Yeah. As therapists.
As therapists. But maybe that's kind of the point, because we're coming at communication from a different perspective. And what I have found, and really, I think you might even have more experience on this topic, of using some of the counseling communication tools helps cut down on a lot of just really eye-rolling conversations.
Or
of like,
just work.
I don't need your whole life story right now. I just have to file this paperwork. It's real life.
Well,
real life.
And just as far as credentials go, I think it is important for us to explain this, is that we both run group private practices. They are privately owned by singularly or retrospect. I forgot the word. Prospectively? No, that's not it either. They're both run by us. And we deal with a lot of therapists. In all, there's probably 115 or 120 therapists that work for us combined.
Yeah. This guy, second largest practice in the nation.
Yep.
So, I think I would listen to the advice you had to give me.
Well, especially because as therapists, you would imagine that our communication skills would be excellent.
Oh, you might be wrong.
It's not true. We are great at helping other people or communicating with our clients, but there's a little something that shuts off when it comes to our coworkers.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody watching or listening to this can empathize with that. The vast majority of what we do is help the people that are trained in communication communicate better.
Yes. It's a different style of communication, too. For sure. And so, Zach, you've got a lot of credentials behind your name. I do a bunch of stuff too. Like Zach said, I own Lyon Counseling. Together, we have co-founded Trauma-Focused Hypnotherapy, which is an education company certified with the Department of Health in the state of Florida to teach therapists how to use hypnotherapy to address complex trauma. And so there are a lot of ways that we communicate, not only on a conscious level, but a subconscious level, that I think are going to be very helpful to teach you some of those bullet points today, because maybe, I don't know, you'd have to tell me, maybe you don't experience this so much with colleagues, but certainly with clients, there's a way that you can speak that helps kind of cut through some of the emotional stuff and get to the real bullet points that you need to help them work through what it is they're working through. I mean, we've all had that situation. I get it during intakes where I need to get them on the right track, but they're busy spilling their whole life story. Yep. And so I got to balance this thing, right? Of like, well,
what's pertinent?
Yeah, I need to empathize with them and make them feel seen and heard. But at the same time, I'm moving towards a goal, which is also their goal, but they don't know how. We got to get through some stuff today to get you towards that goal that you have stated. Sharing everything may not be the most expedient way to achieve success towards that goal.
Sometimes not even close, but
not even close.
I know from working with many attorneys that this is a big issue, is communicating, because they don't know what's pertinent in your intake or with a client of yours. Yeah. They don't know what's actually pertinent, and I have to very quickly and effectively parse through what it is that they think is important, and my expertise, without dismissing or making them feel unheard. And that's really that's really where the tricky part of this comes in, is making somebody feel valid for maybe even having an opinion that's not very valid.
For sure.
Because they are. Maybe that opinion isn't, but they are. And we see doing that effectively is going to help with client retention. It's going to help with success rates. It's going to help with time management.
And your stress.
Yeah.
and your stress. So if today's topic piques your interest, you can find more helpful tips about how we use communication with our clients through our company, Trauma-Focused Hypnotherapy. And so hopefully we'll get some good bullet points for you today in this next hour that you can start to use right away. So let's start with...
Why does it break down?
What? Yeah, well, yeah. Why does communication break down? Let's walk it through. You're not bad at communication. You're just out of emotional bandwidth. It goes both ways, right? They may not be bad at communication. They just may be at the end of their emotional rope. So might I. I can only imagine being a lawyer. That affects me in different ways, my emotional bandwidth as a counselor, but also the amount of stress from research, science-based, the amount of stress that lawyers are under. It can make effective communication very difficult if you don't know the specific bullet points that you're working towards. I mean, anything to add to that?
No, that's very concise.
Yeah. How do you think, we'll get more into this, but could you maybe talk to me a little bit about how stress can sort of break down communication? Because that's like middle bullet point here. Chronic stress really narrows your communication capacity.
Sure. Let's take some stereotypical examples. That buddy or good friend of yours that's nagging on you for the same thing that they've ragged on you for the last 20 years. They bring that topic up again about how you did something silly in college. And
whatever it was.
It's funny, it's uplifting, it's connecting. Versus, you go home and partner reminds you for the 30th time that you didn't do something that you're supposed to do, like take the trash out. That's infuriating. And so the emotional connection, or what we talk about as far as like attachment to the subject and the person, is absolutely going to affect what comes across. If a little kid calls you a stupid head, you go, that's cute.
Yeah.
If somebody uses a derogatory or racist slang towards you, you shouldn't just feel like, oh, that's cute.
It's going to be different.
Yeah, and that's because there's intent there that is different.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And some of that stress can cause us to enter into that really intense, really fight or flight sort of adrenaline dump type of situation.
Absolutely.
Which leads to a breakdown of communication. Like if I'm in that fighting or running away sort of emotional or physical response, it's going to make the parts of my brain that need to form my words struggle to do their job, which is helpful from like just a human being perspective, right? I don't need to talk it out if I'm running away or trying to fight a grizzly bear.
Right.
Not the time to talk it out. And so if all that adrenaline's dumping, it's going to make it hard. But you fast forward into a legal setting or a very like strict, you got to follow the deadlines, got to follow the ways that things are. You can miss some stuff if you've got chronic stress or if you are in that elevated state of response. That's going to make that communication break down. I would also say, I want to add to this, goals, right? What is my goal? What is your goal? Can cause communication to break down. If we have different definitions of words, if we have different things that we mean, and if we have different goals, I may be trying to move in this direction. My client, my colleague may be trying to move in this direction. We're going to miss each other. Now, it's unfortunate that somebody has to be the bigger person and recognize our goals are different. I have to speak to your goals so I can sort of redirect you back around to these other goals.
So that's kind of our job.
Right, both as lawyers and counselors, which really
makes this understandable when we're talking about clients or patients, but a little bit more difficult when we're talking about colleagues.
True. Yeah, when it comes to clients, it's like, well, that's why they're paying you and you're not paying them. You're the one that's like, I see your goal. Let me speak to your goal and then redirect you back around to what we need to get done today.
Right.
Colleagues can be a bit more difficult, but we'll get into all that.
Yeah.
Anything to add? All right, let's keep it rolling. The trauma of miscommunication. Most legal conflicts aren't about facts. They're about unmet emotional needs. So let's talk about trauma. Let's talk about layers of communication.
Sure. Well, let's define trauma first.
Please, go for it.
Non-consensual ripping away of an identity.
That's trauma.
It is when there is a identity that I personally am attached to, that I like, that makes up who I think that I am, and that is immediately taken away. An example of this is, like a physical trauma. I'm safe. My identity is that I'm safe. My identity is that I'm safe. Something happens, and now I have the forced realization to where I am not safe.
Yeah.
Now, not to say that every conversation where there's unmet expectations is traumatic, and then we treat that like it's a PTSD.
Not everything is trauma, right?
Right. But that is at the core of the traumatic experience, and how bad the symptoms are going to be is going to be based on my attachment to that identity and the force in which it was taken away.
Agreed. Yeah, calming that down is going to be really important.
Right.
And when you say that about identity, I think that's key. A lot of times we define trauma based on the symptoms.
Right.
You see that a lot with counselors. You see that a lot with others. I'm certainly not one of those, and I know that you aren't either, that believes that everything is trauma. That's not what we're saying. But what we are saying is that if you don't take the time to slow down and recognize what someone's identity is in a conversation, it's going to be really difficult to communicate with them. For example, if you're dealing with an individual who's coming into your office and they're like sharing this whole life story, and you start to recognize like, man, we're really going into this. I don't know how that's helping us accomplish their goals. I get that moment of, well, this is interesting. Right, all my interns rag on me because it's like my favorite phrase. They just say that, well, this is interesting. And what I mean by that is like, well, this is not happening the way it's supposed to. So I can either get frustrated or I can get curious. Right? And so it's like, well, all right, let me not get frustrated. It's not going to help anybody. I'm going to ignite my trauma response. I don't need to accomplish this goal, right? My perfectionism, my need to be great at what I do. Let me hold on to that. What's happening here? Why are they sharing so much? They're here for my advice, but they're not even letting me speak about what we need to do next.
Sure, but my goal is to get you where you need to go.
As a lawyer or as a client?
Yeah, or, I mean, as a lawyer or as a therapist.
Yeah.
And it totally bulldozes that. And this conversation is exactly how it happens in our head. Going, let me be curious about this. No, I need to get to the point.
It interrupts that process.
Yeah, and now you're not talking about this great point that you were talking about.
And so the great point that I was talking about is that client probably has a different goal, right? Yeah. If the client's identity is wrapped around being a victim, I need to convince this person of how much suffering I have been through in order for them to take on my case, for them to fight hard for me. Then I'm going to share my entire life trauma story in order to get you to the point so you can feel bad enough for me so that I have some kind of value in your eyes. Well, okay, that makes sense why they need to share all this stuff. And me getting frustrated with them, not getting to the point, is going to reinforce that their story isn't that bad. And so they're going to speak more. And so now I'm frustrated. They're sharing more trauma. I'm frustrated. They're sharing more trauma. We're getting nowhere. And so that moment of curiosity, like, okay, what's going on here? What is their identity? And that's where it gets to that trauma definition of identity. What is their identity they're trying to communicate here? How can I speak to that? Just give them a little breadcrumb so we can move around to the goal that we need to accomplish in today's conversation.
Yep.
Just as meaningful for clients as it is for colleagues. Because you know that person, walk around the office a little bit, they need to feel important. They had a rough day or they have difficulty in their at-home romantic life or whatever it is. And so they're trying to assert, well, I need people to look at me. It's like, okay, well, I can get frustrated, and then they're going to try and make me look at them more. Or I've got to be strategic about this. If I'm in a heightened state, it's going to be more difficult for me to make that judicious execution of communication in that moment. Anything to add?
I think that it's perfect.
I think it's important to understand that.
Absolutely.
So there's some grounding principles. Now that we're kind of understanding this idea of how some of our background with trauma influences our understanding of miscommunication and how there's depth to miscommunication that we have to be aware of in order to get it to stop, let's talk about some of these principles. When you are practicing good communication, the first thing is this idea of active listening. How would you define active listening? What does that mean?
The trend.
No, what is the trend?
We listen, we don't judge.
Oh, yeah. Listen, we don't judge.
No, that's not it. But
and then they share the worst things ever. I don't know. That's a pretty hard one. I'm judging a lot.
There's a lot of things that you can do, and if you can take anything from this, don't take hey, here's the definition of it, and so I did those things, so I was active listening. That's not the case. Some signs of somebody active listening, which are just signs, are repeat back key phrases, ask open-ended questions, reflection, be aware of and calm your own nervous system, and make sure that you're in that space with them. But the fundamental point about active listening is that I'm so actively listening to what you're saying that not only can I understand it, but I feel it. And my thoughts and my emotions are in sync with each other about what you're saying. And as soon as they get out of sync, I'm no longer actively listening. But that's we talk about belly button to belly button communication.
You got to unpack that one.
Yeah,
that's a weird phrase to say.
Real quick is it's when you're so focused at somebody, you are lined up with them. Your shoulders, your belly button, your feet are all in line. And what happens in that situation is it actually becomes very uncomfortable. If you've ever seen two people talking, most of the time when they're talking and they're standing in front of each other, they're not actually lined up, especially guys. And it's
usually like this.
Yeah. Well, a lot like this.
Yeah.
Because there's an aspect of emotional connection that happens through mirror neurons in the brain that makes it so that I have to almost have your experience in order for me to understand, and that alignment is what it does. And that's for me, for us, that's active listening, when you can be so in tune that it's like, not only do I understand, I feel.
Yes. And there's a lot of keys to this. The way that you're positioning yourself, the way that you're responding. So, like really quick head nods. Some people do those. Those mean stop talking.
Yeah.
But if you are locked in with somebody and you're nodding with the cadence of their words, that shows I'm here with you, right? That gives some validation, and that validation is really what you're trying to get, so they can feel calmed in their trauma response, and then we can move on to productive topics. Also, you see people, like counselors, do all sorts of funny tricks, right? We'll tilt our head like this. From a biological standpoint, I'm showing you the vulnerable parts of my neck, which means trust, right? So I'm turning my head like this. They're like, puppy dogs will do this. It's so cute. They're so adorable. And so as counselors, we try and act cute and adorable because, it's like, oh, they're not a threat. I don't need to prove myself to them. We can move on to the topic that this lawyer wants us to get to. There's a lot of little tricks for this. Repeating back phrases. You don't have to care what they're talking about. You don't even have to agree with what they're talking about. But if you repeat back what they said, especially verbatim, which feels really weird in the moment, but if you repeat it back to them verbatim, they're like, oh, Zach gets it. He gets me. I like Zach.
And just to add to especially that point is that there's a lot of communication and a lot of catchphrases, a lot of verbiage in the legal profession that's antithetical to this. Like
makes it counterintuitive.
It can be, and so don't take this too literally. This can be a problem in certain situations. Like, I will aggressively fight for your rights. Yes, probably, but what that person probably very well may need in that moment is for you to very calmly and softly listen to them. And so active listening is not regurgitating some sort of catchphrase that is associated with you or the profession. It's being in that same spot with them, lined up.
Yeah.
then what just came to my head was a lot of times, especially in tense situations and situations that I've needed to, very aggressive situations that I've needed to de-escalate, is I've even matched my breathing with the person that's sitting in front of me, and then slowed mine down after we got kind of in sync in order to bring their reaction down.
Well, what's great is, you're getting this presentation from a couple of hypnotherapists.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of sneaky subconscious stuff, not because we're trying to trick anybody, but people come to us to feel understood and then to unearth and move through stuff that nobody else has been able to help them move through. And there's a lot of tricks that we use to do that, and we're sharing those here. One that you just mentioned is that matching of patterns.
Yep.
Right? And so if I can repeat back to you what you said or match your breathing, once I align with you and show congruence, and then I start to shift, that person will shift with me, right? So maybe when they're in the moment, I'm repeating back the words as fast as they said them to me because they were at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But then when I shift to what the goal is for our legal counsel, I'm going to slow down my speech and get into a much more relaxed cadence. I'm going to take breaths between my sentences to share, and that's going to take them from that pace, show them that I care because I'm matching at their speed, and then directing them to a new speed, all without saying a word about what I'm actually doing. Maybe you call that manipulation. I certainly would not. I'm just pacing. I'm pacing with them and helping them get to the goal that they explicitly stated they want to get to.
Yeah.
But sometimes our own thoughts and our own speed gets in our way. Active listening is a fantastic way to do that. And so, again, not trying to add things to your plate. Like, I am certainly not here to give you advice about what to do in the courtroom, but some of these soft skills to ease the stress and the burden on the life outside of the courtroom, just try to make your life easier. That's the goal here. Number 2, empathetic boundaries.
There's so much there.
We're only going to hit a little bit of it. I think maybe a nice bridge between point 1 and point 2 here when it comes to boundaries is, again, that definition of trauma, a ripping away non-consensually of an identity, has a lot to do with who we are. Sometimes that who we are needs to be defined inside of those conversations. And the way that looks is, hey, I'm here to aggressively fight for your legal battles.
Yep.
It sounds like you've been through a lot. See, I'm pacing with them. I'm reflecting back what they said. I would love to help you get connected with somebody who can walk you through those things, because I know talking to me is not the most economic use of your time and finances. So I tell you what, I've got a great partner that I work with. He's a counselor, he does this. He'd be a great person to talk some of these things through with, because I can tell you're really going through it. Matching, moving, right? So let me define that boundary, that identity. I'm here to represent you legally. Sounds like you need a therapist. If you want to dump your trauma, go do it, right? And we do the same thing, right? People come to us, well, I don't know what to do about this. I'm like, listen, I'm not a lawyer. Here's some lawyers that I love. Go talk to them. I'm not giving you legal advice. And so having those boundaries, who am I? What is my involvement in your life? It's almost like, it sounds a little silly, but it's almost like parenting.
Yeah.
Setting clear expectations and being consistent with those expectations and boundaries, even though it may be confrontational in the beginning, actually communicates safety and consistency, right? I can trust this person to stay inside of their box, right? And do the things that they've promised to do for me.
And setting empathetic boundaries doesn't happen unless you also had that first step of active listening. And so these do build on each other. And
1, 2, 3.
They have to.
Yeah, they certainly do. Certainly do. I also want to say, I think a lot of people misunderstand confrontation when it comes to boundaries. There's a really very famous therapist named Carl Rogers, who's the foundation of a lot of what we call person-centered psychotherapy. And a lot of people think that he was this person who just said yes to everything. He's very permissive, but he wasn't. He was actually very confrontational. And so the way that he would do it, though, is he would just repeat back what the person said, highlighting the discrepancy between what they said. Because you get these individuals, you talk to them, they'll say something, and then in the next sentence they'll say something completely different. And I'm over here sitting like, that doesn't make any sense. And so it's like, instead of being, confrontational to them and being like, well, you're the problem, or you don't make any sense, or you're not thinking, I might just say, well, hold on, I'm a little confused. How did this happen and also this happened. Can you help me understand? And so I'm switching that around. I'm showing boundaries, but I'm switching that around and saying, I'm not making the problem between us. I'm making the problem inside of that person. And that's very important to understand. My goal is not to create, in the courtroom maybe,
Sure.
to create conflict between two individuals, but I want to create intrapersonal conflict, conflict inside the person, not extra-personal conflict. I don't want to be fighting with this person that I have to get along with while I'm on their legal case or we're partnering on this battle. If there's a conflict that needs to arise, I want to help show them, hey, help me understand you don't seem congruent here.
Yeah, and the only thing that I would add to that is the conflict between people is seen when we have a misunderstanding of what a boundary is. And so how I would define a boundary is a boundary is the line of my behavior between what I will do and I will not do. We get this very confused in our social vernacular right now with an expectation. Because an expectation is the boundary between, or the line between the behavior that you will do and you will not do. So a lot of people will say things like, my boundary is that you don't call me that. No, that's an expectation.
It still may be rude for them to call you that.
Exactly.
Not disagreeing, but that's an expectation, not a boundary.
The boundary is, when you say that to me, I'm not going to participate in this conversation anymore.
I'm walking out.
Yeah. And so when it comes to empathetic boundaries, that's just I think a really good thing to add, because a lot of times what we'll do is we'll say like, hey, my boundaries are this expectation that I have for you. My boundary is this expectation that of things that you should do, which creates a lot of conflict, as you were just saying. And a actual boundary, what I will do, is where I can create that empathy with saying like, hey, this is what I can and can't do, but I see that this is how the situation needs to be for you.
Right. It's, dinner with the mother-in-law where, I can't tell them not to bring up politics or religion, right? But I can certainly say, if we bring up politics and religion, that's not a conversation I feel is healthy for us or healthy for me. I'd love to talk about life and all that, but if that's going to be the topic of conversation, I'm just going to excuse myself. Yeah. That's a great boundary.
That's a great boundary.
It's not conflict. It's not mean. It's just like stating facts. If you're going to do this, I'm going to do this. Yep. That's it. No hard feelings. I'm just moving on.
And that's the only place that empathy, like true empathy, I think can be built.
Yeah. Wow. Would you unpack that? The only place that true empathy can be built.
Yeah. Like
powerful statement.
Empathy can't sit in the same space as expectations.
No.
If I have an expectation for somebody, I really can't understand what their circumstances are. I can't deeply empathize with where they are because it's my expectation that's being put on them. With a boundary, I can say, hey, like, I'm not going to do that, or I am going to do this. But it actually does make sense to me why you would do that. Like, mother-in-law, I understand how important politics are to you.
Sure.
This is all you want to talk about. And you really want my political view to be your political view. I 100% understand that. It's not going to happen.
Right. I hope they understand it's more than just mother-in-laws. I'm just playing on the social.
It's father-in-laws too.
It's friends, it's neighbors, it's all family members. Yeah. We just play it on the cultural tropes. But yes, that's an example of those boundaries. Number 3, nonverbal signals. Most conflicts is in tone, not content. You can say the most wonderful, nicest things, but if you say it in the wrong way, it doesn't come across. So there's a lot to that. Google is a thing. I've got you for a limited amount of time, so we're going to move through this pretty quick. But there's a lot of pieces to it, and we know that 55% of communication is in body language, and that even more of that is in tone and cadence and other things. That's just the bodies, 55%. The content actually makes a very small amount of what's being, what's coming across. And so notice yourself, if you take a moment, if you feel confident enough, maybe this is a little confidence exercise, ask other people. Be like, hey, listen, don't fluff my ego. Be brutally honest with me. How do I come across, right? is my eye contact weird? Are my shoulders strange? Like, do I feel intimidating? You know, I had a lawyer in my office one time, just out of the blue. I was like, you know, can I share something with you? And they're like, yeah. See, I'm modeling empathetic confrontation. I'm about to confront them about something, but I was being empathetic about it. I was like, can I share something with you? Got consent, yes. Pulling them in hypnotically, right? They're engaged in this conversation. I was like, you have very intense eye contact. And they're like, really? I was like, yes, yeah, you sure do. I was like, I didn't say that to make you uncomfortable. I just reflecting, like when you're locked in. Like I don't think I've seen you divert your gaze once. And their eyes were just naturally kind of very wide open. And I was like, did you ever notice that by yourself? They're like, no. And I was like, yeah, I just thought it was interesting. Unique eye contact. And so I shared a little bit about how that comes across. You know, sometimes it can feel like they're scared, right? Because their eyes were very open. That's a fear response. Sometimes it can feel like, you know, almost angry, like they're really intense. And I checked in with them and they were like, no, that wasn't actually the emotions I was feeling. I guess I just naturally come across that way. And so these kind of things, we don't notice them because, you know, I just got this face. I was born with it and this is the way it looks.
Or we're being conditioned that way. This is what I do in my culture and this is how we are, or something along those lines.
Also, born into a culture, didn't choose that either.
Yeah.
And so asking some of these questions without taking it personal, and this is where the trauma part comes in. We're not criticizing who you are as a person, but asking those questions for more information to be like, how do I come across? Let me notice what the response of my clients are. Let me notice what the response of my clients or my colleagues are to my colleagues and how those differ from me, so I can sort of cultivate this culture of curiosity within myself. We listen to what other people say. I don't judge myself. You like how I brought that all back around?
That's great.
That was pretty good. But it's true.
And one thing I'd add to this too is that nonverbal signals, just paying attention to your nonverbal signals will make it so that your communication improves, because if you're paying attention to it, you're going to end up being more mindful about the entire context of what's happening. You're going to be more present, you're going to be more grounded, you're going to be more aware of what's going on inside of you, your body, your head, and the person in front of you by just paying attention to it. But we don't actually think about that too much. Like, I don't think about, oh, what are my hands doing right now when I'm communicating?
Yeah, or this.
And just taking a quick a scan of where you are and what's going on in your body with your nonverbal cues. What does your voice sound like today? All of those things will make you that much more effective in communicating accurately.
It can work for us and against us sometimes. I have difficulty hearing sometimes. Like my wife tells me all the time, not because I'm tuning her out, but just because I can't hear very well. I think it's growing up playing the drums and riding motorcycles and stuff. My hearing's not great, and so I naturally speak pretty loud. And so I think that has lended itself well to being a public speaker because I naturally speak louder than everybody else. But that's one way it can be nice. I might not have known that. I can come across a little harsh and feel like I'm yelling to others who are maybe more sensitive to sound. On the other side, I've noticed people, lawyers, whose, you know, it happens from time to time. My suit doesn't fit as well as it used to. And so my shoulders get a little tight in my suit. That pulls my shoulders up.
Sure.
What is this? Fear response. My shoulders are up. I'm covering my ears. I'm covering the vulnerabilities in my neck. And so when I'm sitting there, my suit's a little bit too tight. I'm uncomfortable, you can see it on my face, and I'm communicating fear, which creates distrust in the person that I'm talking to. It's all over the place. All these subtle little things, the micro expressions in my mouth and my face and my eyebrows, learning, looking, receiving, being curious, helps us understand the way that we're coming across. This is not to blame. It's just like, hey, there are all these things that you're putting out into the world. If you just take a moment and be like, let me think about that. Let me change my cadence, my tone, my volume, my body language. Make a world of difference, I'm telling you. Anything to add?
It's great.
It's cool. Okay, so let's talk about the other side of the room. Clients in survival mode. The client isn't being difficult. Their nervous system is trying to stay alive. That helps me so much.
Yep.
Helps me so much because if I feel like I am being thwarted in my goals, or someone is pulling against me while I'm trying to make progress towards the objective, it can quickly turn into frustration and anger that then halts communication and progress rather than getting us to our goals. It's really important. So what do you do with somebody who's as trauma counselors?
Yeah.
What are some things that you do when a person is in that trying to stay alive mode?
Well, and I think that the fundamental key has to be one of the things that you said at the very beginning, which is what's the goal?
What's the goal?
And a lot of times what people will do in conflict situations is they're going to say, well, you told me the goal is A, so I'm going to fight for the goal being A when the goal is really zebra. And the person coming at me is
great, because sometimes it's not even in the same subcategory.
It's not even the same thing. And the client is coming to me and they're saying, like, I have this problem with parent, and this is the problem, and this is the problem, and this is the problem. And in all actuality, the problem is a self-esteem issue where they have this really messed up core value that is for themselves. And all of these other things are the things that they can grasp onto in order to make it so that they feel like they are in control of that other situation.
Yeah. And
so this is talking about dealing with the symptoms rather than the core issue. It is very easy for I think it's very easy for people, clinicians, doctors, therapists to get caught up in dealing with the symptoms rather than the core issue. The core issue is something that they need to survive.
Yeah, absolutely. Using plain language helps a lot in that scenario. I think a lot of us, when we get frustrated or are having difficulty with clients, we have the tendency to over-explain. This is a situation when a client is in survival mode that adding more information typically does not help. We want to stick with 1 to 2 points, communicate next steps. It's like, these are the next 3 things that we're going to do. And we get that all the time as trauma counselors, and certainly as hypnotherapists doing deep identity work. It's like, this is what we're going to focus on. This is how we're going to get there. Done. End of sentence. Because the more stuff that you start to add, it gives the mind more space to be like, well, I don't like this, or I don't know if I agree with this, or what is happening over here? We start to spin back up. So assume cognitive overload, not ignorance, right? It's just like, let me speak clearly, let me speak simply. Let's slow this down. These are our next steps. We're going to make it through. I'm here for you. So I'm empathizing again, communicating my boundaries, moving towards the goal. Critical.
And even teaching, the point that says teaching boundaries is to give somebody especially a client, the boundaries that they can live in. And that's communicating very clearly. Hey, I don't want you to do these things, and communicate with me about all of these things, and you're free to do these things. And then even teaching them about how to set a boundary and not an expectation.
It's great.
That brings up a story about a deposition that I was in a couple of years ago that was scheduled for an hour and a half and went for about almost 5 hours. And the attorney cried at the end. And it was because I kept reasserting the boundaries that I would have, and it was incredibly frustrating for this person. And
they really put in the work. 5 hours trying to wear you down?
Yeah, 5 hours, almost 5 hours.
Still.
And there wasn't an understanding of how this person didn't understand how they could get me to lead me down a road that they wanted to lead me down after I said, these are my boundaries. And another attorney really coached me on that, and on how to say, this is what I will talk about and this is what I will not talk about, even though it did get kind of personal.
Makes sense.
And that's the key there, is boundaries.
Not upset. I'm just not going there.
Yeah.
So we got ourselves. We've got our clients. What about other lawyers? What do we do in that domain? We fight the same system. Let's not fight each other. I love that little tagline.
That's great.
I think that foundational thing of we got to work together. not necessarily be on the same team. Sometimes, we're on opposing councils here, but we're all playing the same game. And so for me, I think most importantly, when I talk with myself about interacting with colleagues, is like, this is not about me. Right? I don't got to take this personal. I don't got to take this home with me. Business is business, right? And that's the great part. Is like, if it's my stuff, all right, I got to go talk with my therapist about it or talk with my friends about it. Or if it's my client, okay, well, they are my business. That's difficult. But it's other lawyers. It's like, hey, you know what? You say whatever you want. I'm not taking that. I'm not going to let it ruffle me. And that comes down to some very important work with who am I and my security and my identity. If I feel like I have to prove myself all the time and somebody is not, not ascribing to my sense of identity, I need to have the wherewithal to let that go and be like, I don't need them to see me the way that I see myself. They're entitled to their own opinion, and I'm entitled to disagree. You're going to say something.
I think what's the goal in this communication is something that we get off on a lot. And so just being able to, when something comes up inside of me that is mine, I can tell because whatever is being said to me doesn't go in one ear and out the other. And I hold on to it. It's like there's a filter or a screen or something like that that catches some of the personal stuff that I might be taking personal, which may or may not have been intended to be personal, but it's still me that caught it. And I think that can go both ways in the conscious mind, where I have you're not allowed to talk to me that way, or that was really a jerk thing to say.
Feels like the playground all over again.
Yeah, it is the playground. Or the flip side of that, which is the unconscious filter or screen, which is like, wow, something happened inside of me. I'm not supposed to feel that way, so I'm going to push it down so that I don't have to express some sort of emotion.
Yeah.
And either one of those things, it's still me that's catching the thing. That's not mine to carry with me. And so the first point there is like, name the emotional tension. It's like, understand what's going on inside of me in order to better understand what's going on outside of me.
Yes. And I want to take that to an even different level and say that it is very easy. And maybe, I don't know, maybe this is easier or happens more often with counselors than it does with lawyers, but I don't think so. There are very often situations, certainly with your clients, where part of empathy is where we can feel someone else's emotions as if they're our own. And usually those people who are deeply empathetic are very intuitive and they make very smart decisions. Like if you ever notice somebody who has been, through a traumatic situation or several traumatic situations, they do research on this and they're highly intuitive. They can pick out with their gut feeling who's wrong in the crowd. And they're able to pinpoint these individuals who have bad intentions much more accurately than other people. And we see that. The only problem is they often are not able to capitalize upon that greater emotional intelligence because they feel like it's them. So their gut is right, but their interpretation of their gut is wrong. And we do this as counselors, we do this as lawyers too, where we kind of get home at the end of the day, how you doing? I'm stressed. And then you stop and you pause a moment, you're like, wait a minute. And I'll ask you this, you'll ask me this to kind of break ourselves out of these subconscious trances, using hypnotic language there. Are you actually stressed? What are you actually stressed about? I'd be like, I guess if I think about it, things are pretty all right. Whose stress are you carrying?
Yeah.
Is it the practices, right? Law practice or counseling practice?
Yeah.
Is it a colleague's? Is it a client's, right? Was it something that was said that you didn't even catch? Was it the, emotional culture of the office that day? And so I just want to take a moment to mention that if you're absorbing everything because you're highly emotionally intelligent and deeply empathetic, and that gives you an intuition, but you haven't created those personal boundaries about what is my emotion, what is not my emotion, it's going to make it really confusing when you talk with your colleagues.
That's a recipe for disaster in communication.
Really is.
Because one, you don't understand that you're stressed about somebody else's stuff, and you're giving off the impression that it's you that's stressed. Not only are you giving off the impression that it's you that's stressed, but now you're going to end up projecting that stress on that new conversation.
Messy, messy, messy. So I often tell my clients this, and this is where counselors are very helpful with lawyers, is we'll coach clients through this when they talk with their lawyers. They're like, I want to send all this to my lawyer. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. How about you write an email draft? Write the email draft, put it all in there, right? Everything. Right? It's like pages long. And they come in and they show us. It's pages long. And I'm like, great, get it all down, sleep on it, give it a couple days, and then look at it again, read it over again, and see if that's everything that you really need to send them. And then they'll pare it down to a couple paragraphs. But that's a helpful process. You can't shortcut that process. Right. You gotta dump it all out and then come back when the fight or flight response is gone and then reread it through. And so that can be as short as 10 minutes. You're like, I wrote the draft of the email. I'm gonna go use the restroom. I'm gonna go get, a soda from the vending machine. I'll come back, read it through one last time. Be like, oh, okay. Whew. I walked, I breathed, I took care of my body by having a snack. Oh, okay, yeah, all right. Maybe I was a little bit emotional about it. That 10 minutes of emotional insight for yourself can save you hours of conflict with another person. I think it's critical. Anything to add?
Yeah, just say that's a good metaphor for communicating and being in an argument with a partner, a friend,
romantic relationships,
a coworker, right? Like,
yeah, romance.
Having some sort of template of that you apply to all of the other categories, especially in talking with other lawyers.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. When one size doesn't fit all. It does get very specific to each person that you're talking to. Because again, everyone's going to have a different goal, right? It's almost like, nesting circles on a diagram, right? What's the goal? What's the language style? What's the intelligence level? Like, what's the education level? What's the cultural norms? All these different nesting things that create this person's individual communication. And so the more accurate you can be about those nesting circles, well, the more you can speak directly to them and probably save yourself a lot of time and frustration. So it is pretty unique.
Yeah, I find a whole lot that people will come in, especially in like licensed or professional situations, that they're just like, well, I had this coach, and the coach said and gave him like 5 or 10 different phrases to say, and where I think that those 5 or 10 like scripts are really important, as they're really important only for a starting point. And if we don't make that our own, and not only that, but make it that conversation's own, it's going to get missed.
It really is.
Years ago, you had this kind of realization about me and contracts and the process that I like to go through when it comes to contracts, because I come from a very Caribbean and semi-European context. I want to go have some tea with somebody. Then we have coffee with them, and then I have a meal with them, and then we go out to dinner with them, and then I have them come by the office and we talk about it. And after 5 or 6 meetings, then I'm going to be ready to trust this person enough just to have a contract. And the response was, well, isn't that what the contract is there for? and like, do you do all of that stuff? And I was like, no, because for me, a contract is only as good as it is upholdable. And there's always a way to get at. I mean, I shouldn't say always, but there's a lot of ways to get out of. We
are speaking to lawyers.
Yeah,
yeah.
But to get out of them in a cheap way that avoids litigation, and so therefore, I really want to trust this person on a personal basis.
Right.
So when we're talking about this, that's the biggest reason why I think one size cannot fit all. And having a one-size-fit-all perspective on communication is just like saying you have a standard contract that you will never change for everybody that you ever work with. That's too difficult.
Yeah, You're gonna miss some stuff there.
And so pay attention to those things that you were taught in law school, in early internships, like catchphrases as far as how to communicate with people, things to say, but also pay attention to your own colloquialisms.
It's true.
They're oftentimes not caught by somebody else in the same way you intend for them to be.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be complicated.
I don't think
Sometimes it can be very simple. Like
if you're actively listening.
Bingo.
Right.
If I got a client who really likes football, right? I'm gonna use a lot of football metaphors, Like
Sure.
we're in the final quarter, right? It's fourth down, whatever it is. If I've got a client who doesn't like sports at all, those aren't going to be helpful metaphors, right? It's not going to be a helpful language for us to use. And so finding a common language that we can use, catering it just even a little bit to them, and even just a little bit of a cultural understanding about the way that they communicate is going to be helpful, right? If I'm going to sign a contract with you, Zach, like I'm going to make sure we have coffee several times and then go have lunch and then have dinner. And I'm not going to be frustrated at you about that. That's just the way that Zach works. And so if my goal is to land a contract with Zach, I'm going to have to treat that in a way that's Zach appropriate, right? Where with me, I might get frustrated. Like, why are you wasting all my time? You going to sign the thing or not? It's just like, yeah, we'll figure out how it works. And there's a clause in the contract. If it doesn't work out, then we're going to go our separate ways. All right, let's just start, right? Differences in opinion. It's not one's necessarily right or necessarily wrong. It's just differences in approach. And I get that with clients all the time. Like I get a lot of clients who are more of Eastern European, right? Very direct communicators, right? Oftentimes very sarcastic, oftentimes a lot of dark humor. And so it's like, I'm going to use some phrasing and terminology for that cultural client than I would for somebody who maybe is more like grew up in the South, right? A little more Southern hospitality. It's going to take a little bit more of chumminess, right? Some going out for some brunches before we get to that point. That's okay. Just what's my goal here? And then ask yourself that question of like, well, if I got to take that much time, emotional and mental energy to do it, like, is that worth the investment for me? And so then instead of getting frustrated, it's not going at my speed because I have my own cultural norms and ideas. Be like, well, I mean, that's how I would expect it to go with that kind of person, right? And we're all that way. We've all got our own little nuances and idiosyncrasies. Yeah, and maybe there's something to be said about the digital tone too. That can be difficult to navigate. Some things are better as phone calls. Let's just put that in there. These tips and pieces of advice are not to make your life more difficult. I don't want you to have to do more. This is certainly not adding things to your plate. It's just saying that, hey, if we could use a little bit more tactful communication, it would eliminate so much emotional misunderstanding, miscommunication from your plate that frees you up to maybe take a break. I mean, who am I joking? but to maybe get to the other things that are on your plate, because we all know how it stacks up. Yeah. What other final words you got, Zach?
I'd say the aspect of active listening is something that's so misused and so misunderstood. Is that
that's great.
If you can remember, active listening is not just a list of check boxes. It's to where you are totally in line with the person sitting in front of you, and making sure that you do the work that you need to do to make it so that you have the emotional intelligence to actually be there with them and not have to just address your goals and intentions.
Yeah. If you want some helpful tools, hey, please reach out to us. We like to be very responsive. You can see all our list of resources at Trauma Focused Hypnotherapy. But the piece I would leave you with is our words, our communication, our cadence, our tone, all of that is such a part of our identity. And so as you work on this, and if you really do take this seriously, it can make huge impacts in your life, but you're going to feel strange as you start to do it. So don't get overwhelmed. Don't feel bad about being strange. If you feel weird, it probably means you're doing it right. Pick one thing to introduce into your work week, maybe even just into your friendships, to start in a, emotionally safe place of like, I'm going to practice reflective listening. When somebody says something, I'm going to parrot back what they said first before I respond with what my next sentence is. And notice how that changes your relationships. Pick one thing, do it for a month. Then next month, pick another thing. It's going to take a while because our voice is so much a part of our identity. So take it slow, be kind to yourself as you do it. And if you're with patience and diligence, make those changes, you'll see some huge emotions relieve their weight off your shoulders. So wish you the best. Have fun with it. Bye.
Bye.